Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well no matter where in the world you're at. You know that song, Regrets? I've had some? Well, I'm going to share with you today some of the regrets and some of the things I wish I'd done before we left the US. I think the biggest thing for everyone is trying to decide whether to take everything with you. We ultimately decided to sell most of our stuff, but there were some antique furniture and rugs that we put in storage. And it was a cold storage place, and this was supposed to keep out the moths and all that stuff. Looking back, I think it would have been better to have just sold every single thing, because by the time we came back a couple of years later to get rid of them, we had changed. We realized that all the worldly possessions that we thought were so important really weren't. They were just that, possessions. And it would have been better if we had gotten rid of them. We could have saved a lot of money. Like, we were paying, I think, $176 a month because it was cold storage as opposed to like regular one. And by the time we got back, our rugs that I had spent so much time collecting and cost me a lot of money were just disintegrating. I mean, they had been eaten by moths. So don't believe them when they tell you it's cold storage. It was just useless. We had to throw them all out. And we ended up keeping just basically pictures and just a few things that we treasured, but it wasn't worth the amount of money that we had spent over the couple of years to keep it going. So that's something you really need to think about before you leave. Is it better for you to sell it, or is it things, or are they things that you really, really must have? But that's a big decision, and only you can decide what is the most important thing to you. But for us, I wish I had sold everything, and not worry about paying for storage. So that's point number one. My second one is I wish I had gotten a Google Voice telephone number. We had Magic Jack when we left, and it worked well for years. But unfortunately, dealing with the banks in the US, they no longer take the voice operated or internet protocol, the VoIP telephone numbers, and it's causing a lot of problems, and I really need to solve that. If you have a telephone number, it's still good. I still have the Magic Jack, but unfortunately, I can't use it for banking anymore because they need that two-step thing, and they need to like send you a text and you have to confirm it before you can go on, and it's only good for like a few minutes after they send it. So I can't use the apps anymore. Luckily, for one of the accounts, we can still use the laptop or the desktop to access it, but it keeps prompting me every time. And at some point, I'm going to have to address that. And the thing about the Google Voice is that is accepted when you port the telephone number. Basically, you have to get it while you're in the US. And, to activate the line, you need to actually plug it into a phone line in your house. And then that telephone number that's given to you, you can have it ported, and so it becomes portable, and it'll forward your calls wherever you are in the world. And Magic Jack was working just like that. It would just ring on my phone whenever I had internet access. But this one actually transfers it to whatever telephone number you have, so it rings on there. And that is good for banking. So I really wish I had done that. And now I'm going to have to find someone to like do that for me. So before you leave, definitely get yourself a Google Voice. There's no need to like take your telephone number from AT&T or any of those, because they'll just cost you money. With the Google Voice, what you do is whenever you get to whatever country you're going to, just get a local SIM card and use that, and just push the Google Voice telephone number onto your new one. So that way you save yourself a whole lot of money. This also brings me to the most important thing which is the banking. A lot of cards, bank cards, will charge you ATM fees when you withdraw from abroad, and also the exchange rates are kind of high. I wish I had opened a borderless or an internet bank account before we left, because it would have saved so much more money than we saved. I'll tell you the one I use, and I'll put the information down below. I wish I had discovered TransferWise before we left. Now, TransferWise is probably the best thing that I've encountered since we left the US. Basically, it's an online bank, and it's called borderless because they're in so many countries. And so you could open a US dollar account, you could open a British pound account, you could open a euro account. So you can have money deposited or sent to you in any currency, and then you can move it from within your account. So basically, if I have somebody paying me in dollars, I have it deposited to my dollar account. And then I just leave it there until the exchange rates are favorable. But you don't even have to wait for that, because TransferWise gives you really good rates. So you can move it from one account to the next through your through the app, and you're done. And it saved us so many thousands when we've moved money from abroad, because the banks really, they stick it to you with the interest, with the exchange rate. And this is just, it's awesome. So before you leave, I think you should get yourself a TransferWise card. There are other companies that do it, but I only use this one, and we've used them for the past 3 years, and I love them. And it comes with the chip, as you can see here. It comes with a chip already. They send you a debit card that you can use at all ATMs, and you can pay for it, anywhere in the world. So you spend it, and they'll take the money out of the corresponding currency. And so that works out really great for us. In Europe, I don't know what they charge within whatever country you're in, but within Europe, you can withdraw, I think it's 200 euros a month. The first 200 euros is free of any charges, and then after 200, I usually pay like a euro 75 to use a different bank ATM. But for the most part, I just pay with the card, so I don't have any charges. And it's been fantastic. And I wish I'd done that before, because like I said, I was wiring money out of the US account and sending it over here. And it just, no. Once I discovered this, I was like, oh my God. There are other bank cards that you can use before you leave, that you can apply for. I think Schwab has a borderless card that you can use that will refund you your ATM fees. And I think Chase also has one. But we have both cards, and we haven't used them in years. Actually, they've expired, and we never bothered replacing them because we've only been using our Spanish bank account and the borderless. The thing about opening an account, like in Spain, for instance, it's really not that easy. They need a lot of papers, and so it's good to have all your papers together when you leave. It may take you like 2 to 3 months, which is why I suggest opening up an account in US dollars before you leave, so that you can already at least have that, and then you can open an account wherever you go to. Which leads me to my next point. Make copies of everything. Everything. Don't just have like 2 copies. Make like 5. Your birth certificate, if you're going to need it, your passport, the page with the data page. Make sure you have, 5 copies of that, because it seems like a lot of countries, they just love paperwork. And no matter where you go to, it's like, oh, we need this, and it's like, it's nice to just go bam, bam, bam. When we first left the US, we moved to Malta. That was great. But a lot of stores are just like, they open willy-nilly. Like, they'll open at 9 and maybe close at 10:30. They'll just go off. And so we couldn't find like places to make copies. So like on Facebook pages, you see like, oh my God, who's got a printer? Can I borrow it? Because you need to make copies and you need it right away and you can't find a place that has it. So it's better to just have all the copies done and, have everything. If you need like your wedding certificate, make sure you get the official copies there because it's expensive to try and have it, FedEx or mailed to you because you really need it quickly when you get to where you're going. So your passport, your apostolate stuff, your wedding certificate, a lot of countries, I know at least Spain, they need one that's 3 months old only. So basically, do it just before you leave because it expires in 90 days so that when you get there, you can apply for your residency if you need it. Of course, if you have your visa all the way from where you're coming from, you wouldn't need to worry about that. So that is my thing. If you need a translator, do that too because it'll save you money than when you have to do it there. The other thing is, I wish I had gotten a virtual mailbox. What happened is, I had one of my cousins like be my proxy address, and what and what happens when you don't talk to that person anymore, or you have like fights or something, or my cousin is great, but she's like the slowest person to like send stuff, so. She never really mailed stuff on time, and I just kind of got pissed off, and I had to get a virtual mailbox. And I probably should have done that all the way from the beginning. And you can get some for like $6.99 a month. Anyway, it's worth it. Unless you had, if you have somebody reliable, then of course I would do that. But if you don't, get a virtual mailbox, and that will save you a lot of headache. And they'll forward your mail if you need it, or scan the things that you get in the mail. And if you want to keep the mail, they'll save it for you. If you want them to just trash it, they'll shred it for you. And if you want it forwarded, then they'll charge a nominal fee for doing that. So I really do wish I'd done that. Let's see. I wish I had started learning, another language before I left. Duolingo is actually a great app for learning new languages. I should have started learning Spanish before moving here. Oh, I've been interrupted. I have to go and let him out because he wants to go out for 1 second. This is just what he does all day. This is my life. So I would totally advise you starting to learn the language with an easy app like Duolingo, and have a little bit of advantage by the time you get to where you're going. The last thing I think would be the pet situation. I love my dogs. We have two. And I couldn't bring myself to leave them. But I think if you have trusted relatives, people that you trust that you can leave them with, it's something to consider. When we left, we tried to rehome them. We had rescued them from Petco, and after having them for like 2 years, I just couldn't bring myself to leave them. But it also led to a lot of encounters, I should say, when we got to Malta, because it was impossible for us, almost impossible. As soon as they hear that you have pets, they hang up on you. They don't want to hear it. So we had a really hard time. And so the first few months we were there, we actually lived like in the north of Malta because that was the only place we could find that would rent to us with pets. So and also they didn't have any sidewalks to speak of. So basically you're walking in front of somebody's house and the dog needs to pee and do whatever, but they will tell you like get on the street. And if you've seen them drive in Malta, you know you don't want to be on the street because it will run you over. There's no sidewalk, there's only one lane each side, and it's just really, really hard. So and when we moved to Malaga, it was the same thing too. Like we had a really hard time finding an apartment, and it would have been easier if we didn't have dogs. But you know, if you wanted to be in the suburbs, that was fine. You know, you had a house or whatever. But if you were planning on being in an apartment, I just don't understand it. And you see everybody walking around with dogs, but you know, we ultimately found out that basically you just don't mention it. You move into the apartment and then, ooh, dogs. Oh, okay. But we had been led to believe that you needed to disclose that, but you didn't hear from me. I don't know how it is where you're going to, but that's something to think about anyway. But I'm sure if I had to do it over again, I would do the same thing still, because I like my little dogs and the beagles. Well, one is a full beagle and one is a mixed beagle, but I can't imagine not being here without them. So, but I figure I mentioned that for others, it's something to think about. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it gives you food for thought on what to do and what to think of and what to make sure that you take care of before you leave the US for your wonderful expat life. We'll see you on the next video.